Welcome to Honor Your True Story with Antonia Nelson, a podcast dedicated to sharing inspiring stories of hope, kindness, love, and compassion. Listen in as Antonia's guests share pivotal moments, forks in the road, ups and downs, and wisdom earned on the road of life.
This is Honor Your True Story. I'm Antonia Nelson, and today I have the pleasure of speaking with Marggie Moertl. Margie's an author, a life doula, and inner life coach. She has a deep passion about helping others to connect to the inner voice within and strengthen the conversation with the divine that develops from this. Her focus on death and dying and the sacred energy of that transition is what she's going to talk about today, and I'm so excited. So, Marggie, how the heck, hi, how do you become a life doula? That was my second question. First question is, what is a life doula? If you could share about that.
Well, a life doula is, in definition, a doula is a non-medical, holistic, spiritual support. And you have birthing doulas and you have death doulas, or end-of-life doulas. For me, a life doula is someone who walks beside people during very serious transitions. My main focus had been in end of life, and it certainly is still my greatest passion. But to me, that starts much earlier, as people are aging or facing serious illness or terminal diagnosis, to walk beside them and to offer them my deep spiritual presence, my guidance, wisdom, encouragement, and suggestions for resources. And it's hard to describe. I have a new client that said, I didn't really get it until we started meeting, and now I understand, now I get what you're talking about. And unfortunately, that's the nature of the beast. It's something that you feel and you experience more than a task. So.
Okay. Well, and I was looking online today and just doing some research, and the testimonials of families and the people who have employed, I guess you would say, a life doula for their loved one who's going through that transition. I mean, just incredible support and, the words they use, how much support they got from their doula, and how the process was made to be such a more beautiful experience.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll talk about hospice later, but it really reflects on, hospice as kind of like the benchmark to describe my work. And I love hospice. I'm a former hospice nurse and a huge proponent of it. But hospice is part of regulatory medicine. And so when you have a doula, you have a person who's coming with unconditional love. That's our job, is to create that sacred presence and to bring that with us. And for me, as I'm approaching the home, I'm working on becoming a vessel of of divine energy, and that. So you have someone walking and bringing that energy to the situation and able to normalize death and able to be peaceful about it and to honor everybody's emotions, everybody's thoughts and feelings, and to just be there with people. It's enormous because it's a very volatile time, very, very deep emotions in everybody. And symptoms during the death and dying process need a lot of attention. So it's very exhausting. And so in comes the doula who has the blessing of being able to be that constant presence. And just whatever happens in the moment is what I'm there for, to help with. So.
Well, that, as you're saying that, I'm like, wow, that is so darn exciting to be able to walk into an experience and have that open-ended kind of being in the mystery of it all, right?
Mm-hmm, exactly.
And the uncomfortableness of the not knowing what you're going to be doing.
Yeah.
And then I also think about, like in modern medicine, everything is like, you do this, you do this, you do this, you do this. And I know how important that also is to follow, that protocol.
They go
And
hand in hand.
yes,
You
and
won't have
so
a peaceful death without good symptom management and without the support of those very wonderful professionals.
and is that what the job of hospice is most of the time?
Mhm. They come with the same deep love but their their role is to create, to make sure that all of the tasks are completed, that all the medications, that all the symptoms, that all the emotional and financial, everybody has their role. And they come with the same heart, but at the same time, they're not allowed to just be. They can't prep to become a vessel of spirit. Yes, to a degree. But then when they're there, they have, it's regulatory medicine. There's checklists to do, there's supplies to order, there's dressings to change. There's all of those things that need to be done, and they need to be done, and it's a gift. But I love having stepped away from all of that and being able to bring the best of it. I have all that knowledge with me, and so I can advise people and guide them and help support the hospice team and also support the family at the same time.
Is it a normal procedure for when people are going through, whether they've gotten a diagnosis and for whatever it is that they know that they're headed down that line, that they are given the option of hospice and a doula?
No,
And
not in our world up here. I mean, maybe other areas. I don't think so. I think the knowledge and the seeking of our profession now has begun to really grow. It's just in the last couple of years, but it's still far from the average. Most
Really?
families don't even know about doulas nor really understand why they would need them. And secondly, hospice, it's not hospice's fault, it's just the nature of medicine. Hospice doesn't get involved until the last 7 to 10 days of life on an average. And
Oh, really?
so, yeah, they're not even referred. People are kept in treatment and under their different physicians way up until the very end. And still talking about cure, still talking about all of that until their body literally, they're often in kidney failure or liver failure just from the treatment and exhaustion. And so then they are said, there's nothing more we can do. And they go over to hospice and they're very close to death. So I'm saying that only because there's not much of a window of time to even think about adding another person, much less a doula coming in and offering any great amount of peace. It's high anxiety to get a hospice case up and going. There's loads of checklists and necessary things that need to happen. And that's all now happening in the last week of life, which is to me just criminal. It's
Wow. And so
so sad.
yeah, being so attached to live at all costs, no matter,
Yes.
what's
Yes.
happening. And
Like we value a human life above absolutely everything.
yeah,
And I know that's really not true on an individual basis, but our culture, that's how we operate.
yeah. Well, and just like you're talking about where it's waited till the very last week or week and a half, and then the person knows they're going. And could they have used more preparation and guidance and have somebody there with them to talk about that?
Well, to even get ready, because
Yeah,
most people know they're dying. They don't want to know it. It's one of those deep things that, we know all sorts of things, but we think, oh, no, 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 and that's what we do. And especially when you're actively seeking a cure, you don't allow that inner wisdom to come forward. I think it's robbing the person that's dying, and it's certainly robbing their family of that closure, that peaceful time of facing the truth and being so sad, oh my gosh, it's going to happen. But then this beautiful thing happens after that. And that's what doesn't necessarily, it can certainly happen. I'm not, I don't mean to generalize everything into one picture, but on the whole, people are being robbed of those weeks and months of knowledge that this is happening and the professionals that can help them to come to really see the beauty in it, so
yeah.
and to
Well, I know
prepare for this family to prepare for life after.
Yeah, and you described, the sacred energy of the transition of death and birth. I mean, those are two of the most potent times ever for us,
For
right?
people who are talking about a spiritual journey as what we're here for, that's what we're here for. That is spirit coming in through the, infant's body and leaving through the hopefully adult's body, letting go. And very, very different from how our medical and cultural viewpoint is about life in general.
Yeah. Yeah, we all know we're going at some point in time, but we
And
don't
nobody
want
really
to.
wants to go.
Well, no, of course we don't want to go, right?
I'm completely excited when it happens, but I'm in no rush. I can
Right.
tell you that,
Yes. Yes.
But the beautiful thing is that aging helps you come to peace with that. If you are aging with grace and wisdom, and certainly illness corrects that. When people, that's what I'm saying, there's a natural evolution in a serious illness. And I'm not talking just cancer, with cardiac disease, all different things. When the body starts to fail slowly, there is a peacefulness to it, and you slowly have a chance to prepare yourself and your life, And yes, it's not exactly welcomed, but it is usually perceived as a very, very beautiful and special time in people's lives.
Yeah. Yeah. I got to see that with my father, who died at 96. And
Mm.
he was in hospice for about a month, maybe a month and a half. And he finally allowed himself to receive medication for all the pain he'd been feeling for all these years, but would push away.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the happiest I'd ever seen him, the most calm, and, being able to have really great conversations. He certainly knew he was going. And the night before he passed, he was with one of the nurses, and he said, I just wish I had more time. Like, this was a really short time, and he died at 96.
Yeah.
So,
But finally, this last period where he was comfortable and more happy
yes,
was short out of those
was
96
yeah,
years.
it was short. And I think, he wished that would be more. So how do we get this out to the public? Because holy cow, I can imagine what it would be like for people to know that when they go, that there's this cool process and this person that's going to come and be so helpful for them and their families
Yeah.
in their days.
Well, that's why I call myself a life doula. I would much prefer to get involved long before, not at the very end, because if you get a serious diagnosis, it does not have to mean death to have me involved. That's really the optimum time for me to get involved, when someone gets that serious diagnosis and wants to seek treatment and that's great. I'm all for it, but I can walk with them. I can normalize that. I can talk about quality of life. I can talk about symptoms. I can help them find resources. And just by bringing that sacred presence, shouldn't say it makes, but it naturally allows people to seek more of their inner wisdom, instead of just reacting as the situation is expected, or everyone wants rah rah, you can do this, and yeah, that's great, but maybe it's not really going to be that way. And so let's just be with the moment and talk about how things are right now, and help. We're all going to die. So during that time, to prepare your legalities, your plans, and all of that without ever having to implement, how wonderful. But then they're done. And that is the most healthy thing in the whole world, is to face our mortality, because we really become more fully alive when we realize we're going to die.
Yeah.
Like the Buddhists
Yes.
recognize that every day. That's part of the deal,
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And I think, I've tried to do that with my house, is getting rid of stuff that no longer is needed, giving stuff away where I'd like it to go, so
Yeah.
that I just have what I need and want around me.
Yeah.
And preparing things so that when I do go, that my son knows where to look for anything, that it's all there, that it's not
And
a
doesn't
big.
it make you feel peaceful?
It does. It makes me feel
Like you're free to go and do some fun things.
yeah. And it's a really kind thing to do. I like when my mom died out of the blue at 52. And we didn't know where anything was. And it was
Yeah.
shocking and all that stuff. And my dad's death was different because he had taken care of all those things, what he wanted in a service. And I just think that's such a lovely way to be able to put some effort into thinking about, well, let's see, how would I like this to be?
It also, if you're talking about spiritual opening, we open to deeper parts of our own self by naming those things. We're not just leaving it like, oh, well, my kids will have a nice service for me. Like, no, who am I? What do I want to say about myself? What do I want to share with others in the living and the dying? And it really is a very important process of self-awareness.
Yeah. And you bring up a good point about having those kind of conversations before, before they're, really needed kind of thing. Like how many times we hold back saying something because for whatever reason, and then somehow when we're pushed up against the, you only got a short time, then suddenly now we want to say everything. So maybe you start in grade school with
Yes.
us, teach people how to be in the moment, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's true. And I think luckily our culture is changing. Mindfulness is becoming, my grandchildren know all about those things. And, they use the language, they use the practices, whether they're going in the way I do or not, I don't know. But I just think it's terrific because it's part of their upbringing now, which certainly wasn't true when I was young. But I think that when we get our affairs in order, it's really an inner process. And suddenly then it's just this incredible peacefulness. Like I put closure to my life. And now I can go on and you want to hug people more. You want to be with those people more. You want to go visit the places that you might want to have pictures of at your memorial. It just brings it full circle. And it's really, well, it's part of the dying process. It's called life review. And that's what we're doing. And you can do it at 20 years old, well, 70 years in advance of that moment. But it's important to do it. And it's a really, Frank Ostaseski says in one of his books, like, it's pretty hard to leave all of the spiritual work of dying for the last couple weeks or months of life when you're weak and in pain and cloudy from medication. Who would even think that you would be able to do the spiritual stuff that we need to do, resolving our life, finding forgiveness for ourselves and others, and expressing love for ourselves and others, and all of the other things that we need to do, which just intuitively happen to us as we age. But for most people, it's ignored until that final few weeks. And I just think it's a shame. It really is.
Yeah, I think for an event in our life that is really a big deal, it's a big deal that we could, as a society, bring more beauty and grace into it overall for everybody.
Well, before we went on the air, I was telling you about the new class that I'm offering. The whole point of that class, I call it Sacred Passings, is we'll go through what a natural death process looks like. Natural meaning a hospice, where the system's shut down. But then to shift into understanding the spiritual process and to understand and to start to look at it as a spirit who is preparing to leave the body and to go on to the next, reality of their existence. It should be, I envision like the angels heralding, this is joyous. This is why I love the work, because I love to help people with that. I understand the emotional pull. I have my own in my own family and friends when people pass. It's incredibly hard. But when you view it as the true event that it is, you are joyous for the person to help them to pass into that reality as consciously as they can, because so that they can go with eyes open, I mean, spiritual eyes. So.
Yeah, I was listening, somebody was talking about that it wasn't so hard, the fact that the person was going to die. They were, had terminal cancer. It wasn't so hard the fact that they were going to die. It was what the hard part was, seeing them suffering.
Yes.
That was the hard part. Yeah.
Yeah. And that is very difficult and exhausting. And that's where another role that I have is in bereavement. And it's really a powerful one because most of us, when we have loved ones who have passed for whatever reason, but you doubt yourself. Oh, did I do it right? With my own mom, she couldn't speak originally, and I chose hospice. I fought with the physicians and the social workers that no, that's what she wanted. And then, of course, after she died, I had moments of panic. Was I correct? Did I do it right? Even though she had recovered her speech during the process of her dying and thanked me for it. But still, that terrible, we want to make it better for our loved ones. It's just, it's normal to want to protect them. And so during the bereavement, there's so much of that self-doubt and that self-questioning. And when I've walked with people through that process, we can talk about it and recall specific events, and I'm able to really affirm what a beautiful job they did. And also that they get to be a human being and be tired and go to bed sometimes and maybe not be there that exact moment for different things. So
that is, there's a real peace that comes through when you talk about that, because as you say, when the person is gone, and then how the family, the loved ones are left behind, and all the, like you said, the doubts and the questioning, and of course I didn't do it right, or I should have done this. And to have somebody like you who's already been there a while.
Yeah.
And brings so
I
much
really
of that.
was there,
Yeah.
and I really did see. It's not just someone calling and offering support, it really does help.
Yeah, I would think that would be really healing for the process after the passing of your loved one. So you spoke about a class. So can you tell us about this class that's coming up?
Well, in the last couple of years, I've had so many people ask me if I'm still training a trainer for doula givers, and I am not. And at first I'd say no, and I would refer them elsewhere. And I thought, I'm not training doulas, but I certainly have all of the love in my heart and the knowledge of the things that are important to me to say about it. And so I'm developing, this is an introductory class, just the beginning, but I presented it one other place, and it was very well received. And I am planning to do a more in-depth one, which would smack of doula training, but I'm not training anybody to be a doula. I'm training people how to develop that sacred presence. It's very different than just a sacred environment, a calm environment. It's really doing work on yourself, and keeping yourself in a certain place in your life so that you can bring that to others. And so that's where I'm headed with it all. But this original class is simply to shift awareness into the sacredness that lies at the core of all of us every moment that we are in this body, and way long before and way after, but to start to honor it from that place, not just the physical.
Would you like to share where the class is going to be held?
This one will be at the ADRC in Green Bay, August 17th at 1:00. I just posted it with them. There is a cost, and people can contact me, and I don't know that I'll be offering this exact class again, but there will be more coming. So to stay on my website and find out about them.
Okay. And so that's the best place for them to find you, is on your website?
Yeah. Or
the class?
Yeah. And they can just email me, or, I don't want to give my phone number out on here.
No.
On all my publications, I say, just call me. Here's my number,
Okay.
So.
And the website is Embrace Your Inner Self LLC.com.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'll put that in the notes for people that are listening now, so that you have a way to get a hold of Marggie.
Okay.
So, well, that's really exciting. So I love that you brought all your experience of being a nurse to the doula work that you're doing. And even though now you're not doing any more doula classes per se, like you used to, I love that you said, you have that love in your heart, and you still want to be able to share this with the world, in a way that feels right.
Because it is, when I talk about dying to people, I mean, when I'm answering particular questions about symptom management and all that kind of stuff, you're in that head mind. But when I can talk about the dying process, my heart just opens wide, and it's just, um, it becomes a beautiful moment, and people usually come because they've lost someone and they want to talk about it, or preparing for themselves, and it becomes just a really beautiful sharing amongst the group. I really love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, it sounds like that could be a real ongoing kind of class in the area.
I hope so.
I hope
Yeah.
so too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So also I wanted to touch in about, as I said, you're an author and you've published 2 books, Sally, a memoir, and then Life as a Prayer. Where did you find time to write? I know you raised a family and you're married and you're
Well, this
working.
was after my kids were grown.
Okay.
It was always in me that I wanted to write a book, and I always kind of knew it would have to wait, and it did. But I just couldn't come up with exactly. I mean, I started umpteen million different things, and I just couldn't quite find my voice, my story. And furthermore, I was scared to do it. But then when my mom was sick, when I was journaling one day, I thought, okay, here, this can be the start. And I just went from there and tried to explain the metaphysical side of dying and that. And then Life is a Prayer was really, I think, a much deeper presence within me for many years, because really to prepare to face your mortality and to prepare yourself spiritually, life does become a prayer. You really should be asking for help, saying thank you, remembering, honoring, and all that just happens silently throughout the day. And so that was my intent with that book, is to talk about each of the aspects of the dying, the spiritual aspects of dying, and show an example from my hospice nursing, and then give journaling prompts and a meditation at the end of each chapter to help draw that out in people.
Well, they both sound like really beautiful books.
Well, thank you.
Did you enjoy writing them?
Yes and no.
Yeah.
Like you said, it means a lot of nice days in the summer. You're sitting at home, but it had to be. I mean, when it's in you, it has to be. That's all there is to it. And I did. I was very, very pleased in starting and ending. The middle gets long. Let's put it that way.
Okay. I like that. I like that. So, what would you like the audience to know? Maybe I haven't asked you the question, but what would you like the audience, people that are listening, to know about you and what you're doing and why you're doing it?
Oh, yeah. I would love the audience to know that I'm here and would really love to work with their family at whatever point they feel a need to have someone support them, and that it's not caregiving. I have nothing but love and knowledge and wisdom and guidance to offer, and that it's like having, I don't know, just a support at your side, and available. And I hope that, not just for me, there's a lot of other doulas out there. I hope that our world starts to use us regularly. And I work with people who are going through dementia too, and that's not end of life. That's a weekly visit to support the person in remembering and looking at pictures and supporting their loved ones who are dealing with all the stresses of that in their lives. And that, I mean, so there's many, many ways to use a life doula.
Okay. So maybe people that are hearing this and think about, like, well, I don't know, maybe I could use that, maybe I couldn't, they can contact you on your website and maybe just have
Absolutely.
just a conversation with you to find
Yes,
out.
I have an automatic scheduling thing, but otherwise just pick up the phone or email me, and I will happily, because it has to be right for both of us. I don't think I've ever come across anyone that wasn't right that I wouldn't work with. But for many people, when they talk to me, situations change, or they don't feel like it's exactly the right thing, and that's fine, because it's supposed to be a help.
Right. But at least to be able to, like you said, to start the conversation and think about like,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
might be helpful for, me and my family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And usually what happens, people want to call because they're looking for an answer, they're looking for some guidance. And I do a little bit of that on the initial thing, but then I always say, let's work together because it's not just a quick answer, and it's helpful because then you can really jump in and to start, because people usually call when they're in somewhat of a crisis, an emotional situation or family discord or, things like that. And I love working with families. I'm always been very good at talking to this one and honoring their feelings and talking to that one. And all of a sudden, everybody kind of just calms down and they can start to listen to each other then with some guidance.
Well, I feel that just with us talking, I feel such a peace in hearing you talk and just sitting here being with you, that, it's that calm compassion and a peace inside. So I just from your voice. And so I can only imagine what it would be like to have you there, over a long period of time, to be able to go deep in, to go deeper into the process.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it is, and to get out the richness of it, because nobody really thinks about that. I didn't, when it's your own emotions, you don't want this to be happening, and that's where someone to help normalize it, help calm the situation, and help draw out the goodness that's happening. It really changes things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming on and sharing about being a life doula and the huge scope of what that means.
Yes.
And it, just to understand it better. And I agree. It is so needed for people. Yeah, so needed for people.
And it is. When you love people and you love spirit and you love death and dying, yes, it is needed. And a gift to be able to participate.
May it go a large area and wide, and everybody start to know about it.
Well, thank you.
Yes,
I
know
agree.
about you and what you're doing. So again, check in the notes for Margie's contact. I'll say it again. It's embraceyourinnerselfllc.com. Thank you, Marggie.
Antonia. I have really enjoyed this. Thanks so much.
Thanks for listening to Honor Your True Story. If you loved what you heard, please share this podcast with a friend and be sure to subscribe, rate, and review at Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen in.